So for the recording, welcome back. We are ACI Course 13, Class 3. It's June 11th, 2026, where I am. And let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Studying emptiness and karma, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow your wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that intention, turn our minds back to our precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet. Become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, 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 teach us that, teach me that, show me that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the pure world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. the great mountain, four lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Nirya Tayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings totally awaken for the benefit of every single other. Okay. So since Daria is the only one here with her camera on, I'm just going to go through our review. Oh, Lin Song's here. All right, then, between the two of you, let's do the quiz. So let's consider last week's class. No one, there must not be a definition of an existing thing in Buddhism. Because nobody sent in their quiz. Agree or disagree? Come on, somebody bite. Tell me I'm wrong. Of course I'm wrong. Whether anybody sent in their quiz or not has nothing to do with whether there's a definition for an existing thing. So you say, no, you're incorrect. So then, telling me I'm incorrect in that statement, you're saying that there is a definition of an existing thing? Careful now, because when you say yes, you get to tell me what it is. Who's brave enough? Come on, come on, come on. Linsong says, yes, there
Is
is a
there
definition.
is a
What is it?
definition. Is that which that can be perceived by the valid perception with a valid
Good.
perception. Yeah.
And anything which can be perceived with a valid perception. If we had more time, we'd dig into that a little bit because I would actually like to debate it. But we'll do it another time. But that is correct. So then, also considering our last class, we divided all existing things into four common categories, right? Wrong. You're saying we divided it into more than four? Oh,
Yeah.
so it must be less than four categories. Who's going to say yes? Oh, yes. You can tell me how many categories.
Two?
Two. Exactly. And of those two, one was all things that are blue, and the other was all things that are wet. No, it was some other two categories. Yes, you can tell me what they are. Changing things and
Changing and
Changing,
unchanging.
changing
unchanging.
and unchanging. Takpa mi takpa.
Right. So we just talked about the words changing and unchanging in our discussion of all existing things. We did talk about the words, but that it's not just the words that distinguish the two categories of all existing things, because there have to be things that are changing or things that are in order to categorize two categories of all existing things. So now the definition of changing things is that which is impermanent, right? That which is impermanent is a changing thing, meaning things that last a long time the same and then deteriorate and go out of existence. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about the category of changing things. No. Because things don't last for a long time and then go out of existence. Changing things are anything which only lasts a moment. Me takpa. Things that only last a moment. So then the definition of unchanging thing is anything which is eternal, right? Eternal meaning lasts forever. If it's here now, it'll be here forever. No, there's some other definition of unchanging thing. Yes. What was that definition?
Changing is lasting for only a moment. The unchanging is that it is not last for a moment.
Right. But is it just the lasting, or is it something that is lasting only a moment, or something which is not such that it's lasting only a moment?
The second one.
Yeah, thing. A thing which is, because we're talking about all existing thing, not just the meaning of the word changing or unchanging, right? The things that are included in the category of changing things and unchanging things, we have to state it as a thing which is not such that it's changing moment by moment, or a thing which is changing moment by moment. And then our quiz asked us for examples of each. And an existing thing which is such that it is not changing moment by moment. There were two examples. Empty space.
Empty space or emptiness of something. Yeah.
And the emptiness of something, right?
Yeah.
Nice. And then there was an example of a thing which is a thing which only lasts a moment.
Pillar, water pitcher, table,
pillar,
chair.
right. My chair, my computer, right? My pen. Like,
My body.
wait a minute. If the water pitcher is such that it only lasts a moment, why the heck do I have water pitchers? I mean, I have vases, flower vases, stored in my cupboard if they only last a second. And it's like,
It's changing. It's changing moment by moment.
right. It doesn't look like it is.
Yeah.
Right? That particular vase, my favorite vase. I go to the cupboard, I pick it up. There it is again. It's the same vase, but it's not. It has changed moment by moment. I've changed moment by moment. So then it's kind of a miracle that I go to the cupboard and there it still is. How come it hasn't changed into I don't know, or a dead mouse, or, how come it still looks like a vase? Like these questions, we're in a class where these kind of questions, let them come up, even if you can't answer them yet, because it reveals to us that we're trying to think out the ramifications of the statements that we're being given so that we can think out the ramifications of statements we make. Right? I believe that those flower vases in my cupboard are still there, even though I haven't seen, and I know they're back, and they're going to be the same one. And the ramification of that is, well, then I believe that their identities are in there from them. And then I understand that that's not possible. I have to be bringing something to the party. And when I really start to catch on to all of that, it becomes miraculous that you have the same silverware in the same drawer every day. And yet we know that some people can have the experience that at some point in life, they get to the point where they actually don't recognize their silverware in the drawer anymore. That's called dementia. Right? And the person living with them, it's like, what's the matter with you, mom? You know where the spoons live. But she doesn't know what a spoon is anymore. So how is she going to find the drawer with the spoons if she doesn't know what she's looking for? Right? Has the spoon changed? Yes. Has mom changed? Absolutely. And it's a miracle that it doesn't change like that this often, because it could. Ye gads. So we're learning to think through the ramification of the words we are using to try to describe something. And that's what this whole course 13 is trying to help us learn to do. All right, then, so we also learned about 3 different kinds of working things with their definitions and classical examples, because we were exploring what's in the category of existing things which only last a moment, changing things. In order to evaluate or assess changing things, we divided them into 3 different categories to help us explore them. We said one category of things that only last a moment are physical things. Physical things being anything that we can show as a physical thing. And I think physical things, and I think, my pen, my glasses, my hair, physical things. But then when they give the classical example of some existing thing that changes moment by moment, the classical example is heat or red, could be blue, right? Color, which don't seem like tangible things at all. They don't seem like physical things at all. But of course, heat is part of our physical reality. Changing thing, an existing thing that changes moment by moment. second category was mental, changing things which are mental, meaning anything which is both invisible and aware. And the classical example is happiness or wisdom. And to be honest with you, I still don't quite understand that. And then the third category of existing thing that's changing moment by moment is in the answer key, they called them active things, but they mean that Denmin Duje, existing things, which are not all physical, not all mental, but still are existing, changing things. And they say a produced thing which is neither matter nor mind. And the classical example was person. Person. A person is a concept that probably applies to a physical thing and applies to a mental thing, but isn't all one or all the other. And then, like technically, it really is this category on its own. And then as we'll explore that further, we'll see that it's not limited to meaning a human person or just their name, but it really means maybe the identity of the thing, right? The example we used was Sarani, the name that applies to this and to the whatever thinking goes along with it. But the term Sarani, it's a word, but that word applies to some kind of identity we think this thing has. And that falls into this category of Denmin Duje. And then Sarani is, a proper noun, my name. But if we think about it, when you say the tree, right, we're doing the same thing. We're not saying Bob the tree. We're giving it the name, the title, tree or car or angry yelling boss. So maybe this category of Denmin Duje has a whole lot more in it than we're thinking at first. But that will get revealed as we go along, working with our growing ability to logic out the meaning of things that we've been talking about in ACI and we'll go on to talk about in the future with course 14 and 15 and beyond if we go there. All right. So let's go into class 3. Class 3 is an important class. They're all important, but like ACI 6, class 6 is like this really, really important class that people listen to again and again and again. This ACI 13 class 3 is similar to that. And Geshe-la reminded us that the goal of all of these classes, not just logic, but all of our study and training, is to become ultimately a being who's able to just sit somewhere, were Geshe-la's words, and help every living being in the entire universe perfectly, without any conscious thought to do so, effortlessly, being what's called a perfect match. The word is slundruk. I'll get my screen share up in a moment. It's like by reaching this place where your very existence is exactly what every being needs in every moment, effortlessly and spontaneously. To do that, we must become Buddha. It's like that's what it is to be Buddha. And to become Buddha, we must remove all of our mental afflictions forever. And to do that, we need to have that direct experience of ultimate reality for the first time, of course, and then multiple times after that. Because from that experience and the subsequent realizations of the 16 aspects of those 4 truths, through that, we gain the tools to search out and destroy all of those mental afflictions and their seeds. And we've learned further that through that experience, the shift that occurs in our experience and identity is such that we are no longer replanting the misunderstanding of ourselves and our world that we had been spontaneously, effortlessly replanting before we had that extraordinary experience. So in order to cultivate this direct perception of emptiness, we need to first reach that realization called Chuchok, the supreme object, which is that experience of directly perceiving and so then perfectly understanding what it is to be dependent origination. Just an awkward phrase in English, what it is to be dependent origination. We have this experience where we are finally aware of the deceptiveness of our deceptive reality that we never knew before then was deceptive. Or we knew it intellectually, we're all there, but didn't yet have a direct perception of that mistake. Once we have that experience, now we have confirmed this new way of understanding how reality works, how and why our experiences appear in the way that they do. Technically, how and why we appear in the way that we do, because there's no difference between me and my appearance and the experiences I'm having, right? I have to be there to experience anything. So I'm included in that misperception before that experience. And so included in the understanding about the misperception once we've had that experience. So in order to reach that state, we cultivate it by studying emptiness and dependent origination over and over and over. We hear it in many, many different ways, probably over a long time if you're like me. And slowly, slowly coming to understand better and better how this idea of mental images work. Mental images meaning the term for the seed ripening into the experience. We're calling that the mental image. once we're understanding how the mental images work, this brings us to this clear understanding of how lower reality works, meaning deceptive reality. And the goodness of that will cultivate us into its direct perception. So studying emptiness with dependent origination grows into perceiving the true choke, which grows into having direct perception, which grows into reaching nirvana, which grows into reaching Buddhahood. Once we have the seed ripening experience called Chuchok, Geshe-la shares that within the next 24 hours, you will see emptiness directly. And it's not like you don't have to do anything, right? We will need to go and sit and meditate. So my logical personal advice to myself is when you see the seed ripening, run and jump on your meditation cushion fast, because you don't want to get distracted. Probably you couldn't, but just in case. The perceiving the seeds ripening does not necessarily happen in meditation. I suppose it might, but Geshe-la will hear in Geshe-la's description, we've heard it before. Recognizing this sequence, like we can be on alert. Oh, this is my chu choke. It's not necessarily going to be a pot of water boiling on the stove. Maybe for you, it's going to be, I don't know, so the traffic. You're driving along in traffic and all of a sudden you realize what's really going on. Pull over, call wherever you're going if you have an appointment. Sorry, I'm going to be late. Sit down and meditate. Because if we can meditate, the power of that experience, they say, pushes us into that direct perception. Then coming out of that direct perception, as we've learned, we have these series of realizations, things that become real for us, that when you look back and categorize them, become these 16 aspects of the 4 Arya truths. And then you know that you will reach your Buddhahood, and you know how long it's going to take, and you know pretty much what you need to do. You know pretty much what circumstances you'll have. Geshe-la says, mostly you recognize that there's just really nothing to worry about anymore. It doesn't mean there's not work to do, effort to be made, but there won't be that constant uncertainty or, those 6 sufferings of human life after we've become Arya. He says still, it's very likely that it'll take up to 7 lifetimes. So you could say maybe 500 years from your direct perception to Buddhahood perception. But after uncountable eons of suffering, 500 years, seems a little bit like for the little kid who's starting school in September, Mom, when's Easter vacation going to come? And it seems like, forever away. But then before you know it, there you are, Easter vacation. So it's kind of similar, I would guess, the 500 years that you need to pull off your full transformation. Unless you take on a swifter but more challenging path. So the point of that outline is that studying this thing, mental images, is a direct link to reaching our Buddhahood. So if you don't really want to reach Buddhahood, don't bother to study mental images. If we really, really do want to reach Buddhahood, then studying mental images, which seems so not heart-opening, doesn't seem very Buddha-ish to study logic and pick apart the meaning of words, but it's planting seeds that, when those seeds ripen, trigger this sequence of events. That once you come out of direct perception of emptiness, you can't stop that conveyor belt to your nirvana or Buddhahood. Even if you wanted to jump off of it, it would be one of those weird science fiction movies that you jump off your conveyor belt and you'd be on another one. You can't get off of it once you're on. So we want to study this idea of deceptive reality and the mental images through which we experience it. We want to then think about it and chew on it and contemplate it and meditate on it. And the teachings of logic, the teachings on valid perception, pramanavartika, are about planting the seeds that allows our efforts to move us along the path. So Geshe-la said, pramanavartika is not just studied for fun. Thank goodness, because it's not very fun. Buddhist logic and debate is not just a semantical game or scholastically interesting or some way for those teenage boys to burn off some energy. It's planting seeds in a very, very specific way. Exploring for truth, helping each other explore for truths that we don't believe we know, like we don't know them, but we're learning a method to weed away what's mistaken in our search for truth. We may never find the truth in our debate ground experience, but we've planted the seeds to help everybody get there. So what has to happen in the end? You get there. Even if you're a lousy debater, a lousy logician, the effort to explore is planting the seeds. It's quite extraordinary because it's like a foolproof system if we just try it on for size instead of, no, that's not for me, which I'm sure I did lifetimes, 4 lifetimes. All right. So we're learning to use this Buddhist logic system to come to understand why we see things, why we perceive them in the way that we do. We can perceive things that we can't see directly through logic. And we can perceive things that we can't logic if we perceive them directly. And then both ways can happen, right? Perceiving directly after using logic, and I suppose the other way around. So in Master Dharmakirti's text, he covers both perceiving things through logic and perceiving things directly. In order to help us understand these ideas, these explanations about mental images and dependent origination. Like technically, mental images means dependent origination. But it takes a little while before that connection gets clear. Understanding mental images, it is understanding the nature of perception. particularly the perception called me and my parts. But then that just doesn't, it's not limited to my parts as in my hands, my nose, my hair, but my me and every experience I have. Me and my parts, every experience I have is a part of me. So you could say me and my parts also means me and my world, which seems like, no, those are saying something completely different. Me and my parts, me and my world. But we'll come to see those are not saying anything different. And anyway, okay. So again, once we understand the nature of perception, like understand it as in have a direct experience of it, then it's only a short while before we also come to understand ultimate reality, meaning have a direct experience of that. So Geshe-la said in this class 3, pay attention. This class is really, really important. And he says it's really difficult. He says it's one of those subject matters where we need some kind of special energy to get it, some kind of special power. And that power that we need is called Gelwa, which is a result of virtue. So let me get my screen share up here at this point. Click that, open this, make us bigger. Okay, to look at these again. Lindruk is this word that means a perfect match or a perfect fit. That's that phrase where you, Buddha, are spontaneously, effortlessly being what every being needs. That's what we call their emanations. So beautiful. Chichok is the supreme object. That's the word we use for the experience we have when we are finally actually perceiving the seed ripening into the object of our perception. Gelwa, this is this word for a great collection of really good karma. They do use the word karma, not merit. And I'm not exactly sure if that, well, let's just leave it there. Gelwa means because of some extraordinary goodness ripening. We could be in this class hearing these instructions, and it's so meaningful. We're getting insights. We're like got chills. It's so fascinating. Or if we have not such great Gelwa, we'll understand what's being said, but maybe don't quite grasp how you go about putting it into practice. And if we have less Gelwa than that, maybe we can hear the words, but they don't really make much sense. And if we don't even have that much Gelwa, enough to be here in class, but not enough to really understand at all, we'll get bored, we'll get sleepy, we'll get distracted. And it's not like we can decide before class, how much Gelwa do I have? Can I turn it on right now? If we had that kind of power, you should be teaching the class, not me. But when we, after we think back at class, we know, right? It's like, oh, I guess I could stand to gather a bit more of this goodness. And so Geshe-la says, if we're struggling with our course 13 and this class in particular, he said, really, yes, spend time studying and working on it, but better go out and make more virtue. Do something to help somebody understand something they're struggling with your bodhicitta in your heart. And maybe it has nothing to do with logic. Maybe you know somebody who's just struggling to learn how to run their cell phone. Sit down with them in order to improve your understanding of your ACI 13 and walk them through how to do that. And have them try it on their own and stay with them happily until they get it. And then dedicate that. May my ACI make more sense to me. And it's a sweet method of recognizing that how we apply our seed planting in beyond our study life to improvement in our study life. It's not that you have to go find somebody and get them to study ACI in order to grow your seeds for the ACI. I help somebody who's struggling with something in whatever way. That's how we gather the Gilwa. If we think we need some more of it. Well, if Gilwa ripening is what allows us to understand a class like this better, surely it's Gilwa ripening that would, right, promote the experience of seeing the seeds ripening or seeing emptiness directly. Same idea. So our task of gathering the goodness through our life experiences, all of it will go to this increased Gilwa that will increase our progress on our path. All right. So Geshe said this class's material is difficult, not just intellectually, but spiritually. It's challenging spiritually. And when you're doing your ACI readings, he says similarly, they're not just difficult readings, right? On paper, although they are, but they're challenging to our level of goodness. So he said again, don't try to read all of the reading from every class. You'll see that it's a series of different investigations into the topics at hand. Scan through them and find the one you're particularly interested in, and then work on that one to see what's wrong with the first statements, because they sound pretty correct. And then go to the end of it to find out what the real correct is, and then go back into where they're making their argument back and forth and see if you can get a glimpse of the pattern of how it goes. Geshe says, when you get just one of those arguments and how it goes, you'll get all of them. It's like there's some little secret in there. And as soon as you grasp that, you'll be able to see it, and then you'll be able to use it on yourself for your own thinking, right? This method of saying something incorrect on purpose, trying to correct it, arguing about the correction, trying to defend your original position, only to find out that, oh my gosh, my original position just doesn't hold water. And then trying to come back one last time to prove that it does, that really shows ourselves, oh man, that was really crazy. Why did I believe that in the first place? Because we've shown ourselves the ramification of it. So hopefully somewhere along the line, you'll go, oh, I get what she's talking about. We've been plugging away at the ACI course series. And we take a little time between courses, but anticipating going on to the next one because we've got this task to finish them. And it really, in a way, it's not the best way to do them. That rather we probably should have done a course and everybody go their separate ways, working on it until we thought we understood it. And then we would come back together and say, teacher, I think I understand that course in this way. And then teacher would go, pretty good. So now then let's look at this. And we would go to the next course. And unless we were diligent, we would probably get lost along the way and never get back to the teacher to say, this is what I understand. So, true to Western fashion, we started at kindergarten and we're going through 6th grade and just finished. But the problem is we finish a course and we move right on and we don't really take the time to work at it, chew at it. And Geshe-la said, course 13 will probably be the same. And it will be unfortunate because it's so full of clues. To planting seeds for growing this wisdom that we're taking all the courses in order to grow. So I don't know what to say because I am going to just go right on to 14 after the fact. But I'll encourage you, if you end up, with a logic partner or a group that are interested, try to make the time to continue to work with these ideas. It will pay off. I didn't do it that way, but I kept getting repeatedly asked to share it with somebody. So I was forced to go back through it again and again and again because I didn't have the self-discipline to do it myself. Thank you, universe, for asking me to share it with other people. It was one of the most impactful courses of all of them. Once I caught on, which probably took me the first 3 times through it. Okay, so this particular class, he said he taught this class in such a way to intentionally force our minds to have to work at understanding it so that we wouldn't hear the class and just think, oh yeah, I get it. And now we are at a disadvantage in the way because what I'm going to be telling you, you have heard before, probably multiple times. And so the tendency for our mind is to go, yeah, I got it the first time. And I got it better the second time. And so there's a part of us that just doesn't listen as carefully. So imagine that what I'm going to share, I'm going to do it as close to verbatim what he shared as I can. Imagine you are this group that's hearing this for the first time from this teacher, Geshe Michael, who they know is a new Geshe, the first American to do that, but they don't know he's seen emptiness directly. Right? So imagine you're that student and you're hearing him give this class. So our ticket to seeing emptiness directly is studying this topic, Jijeduk. So this word, it looks like J-druk, but when Geshe-la says it, it's Jeduk, like J-E-Y-J-D-A-K, Jeduk, Jijeduk. It's such an important topic to study that Geshe-la says before you study it, before you read the readings, before you do your homework, he says, then spend some time begging your Lama for help. He actually says, actually sit down and do your meditation preliminaries, even though you're not going to sit down to meditate. Because built into those meditation preliminaries is this preparing us to receive. And he says at the end of your meditation preliminaries, keep that holy being there with you and just beg them to help. Please bless my mind, bless my mind, please bless my mind, please bless my mind. Give yourself some period of time, 5 minutes of please bless my mind. To those poor beings, we've been saying, please bless my mind for eons. At some point, in my imagination, they said, come on, would you get on with it? I am blessing your mind. So I switched my begging them to thank you for blessing my mind. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because to me, it's right, asking for more in a more appreciative way. So I just share that is not from scripture. That's my own personal connection with a visualized Lama being who is kind of wrathful. So we learned last time the Manjushri mantra, Om Arapachanadi. So let's do Om Arapachanadi, like 7, and then your D-D-D-D-Ds, and then ask that holy being, please bless my mind to get what she's saying. Please, please bless me. Thank you for blessing me. So on your own, do you need to see it? Om Arapachanadi. I'll go find it. There it is. Om Arapachanadi. Okay. So here goes. Chi Chedak is the topic we are learning about. There is an easy translation for Chi Chedak, and there's a profound translation. We'll start with the easy one, but this one doesn't help us much. Except to prepare us to understand the more difficult one, that is the real one, Geshe-la calls it. Real meaning the one that helps us grow the ability to perceive deceptive reality directly as deceptive, and then go on to the direct perception of emptiness. So of course, we are perceiving deceptive reality directly all the time. We just don't know it to be deceptive reality. We call it our regular reality, our real reality, our true reality. So it's not that we are experiencing deceptive reality newly. We will at Chuchok experience it for what it really is, instead of through the deception. Right. So the easy version of understanding Chi Chedak is that the word Chi, Tibetan word, it means general category. And the word Chedak means specific member of that category. So that probably reminds us of set and subset in arithmetic class. And what was that, third grade? So as example, Geshe gave, let's consider motor vehicle as the chi, as this general category. Consider motor vehicle. Then members of that category would be, in the United States, Fords, Chevrolets, Toyotas, Kia, like there's so many new ones now. The Ford, the Chevrolet, the Toyota, those are the chedak of the chi motor vehicle. So now you can take any one of those chedaks and divide it. You can consider Chevrolet, for example, now as the general category, and find that that general category has multiple specific members of it. So now if Chevrolet is the general, old Chevrolets, I don't know the different kinds of Chevrolets, Galaxy Chevrolet, Corvette Chevrolet, old Chevrolet, new Chevrolet, green Chevrolet, blue Chevrolet, just sound like Dr. Seuss. All of those different specific Chevrolets are chedak of the general Chevrolet. See, easy, big deal. You can then take old Chevrolets and make it the general, the chi, and find multiple things that are specific to it. Old blue ones, old Corvettes, old Galaxies, old, right? And there's really, it's limitless what you can do with that. And it's like, okay, fine. The way we know whether, tell the difference between a chi, the general category, and things, specific things that are members of it, is that if you were to remove the general category, if you remove the general category motor vehicle, that would necessarily remove all the things that are that category's chedaks, wouldn't it? If something occurred that we no longer had any motor vehicle, would it necessarily be the case that there could be no more Fords, Chevrolets, Toyotas, right? Because the category was wiped out. Every individual of the category had to get wiped out as well. But if you were to wipe out all Chevrolets, does that wipe out the category motor vehicle? No, because there are lots of other kinds of motor vehicles that still make up the category motor vehicle. But you wipe out the category motor vehicle, doesn't matter how many or how few chedaks of that category used to be there, they can't be there anymore. So we're not talking literally physically remove all motor vehicles. We're using it as an example to be able to understand this relationship between what's called a chi, a general category, and the chedak that make it up, that are part of that category. So now there are two kinds of qi, two kinds of things that are general. And of these two, sorry, I have to start again. There are multiple kinds of qi, things that are general. And of these, all but one are called nominally qi. Nominally. Nominally means in name only versus for real. And it's like we've already heard that argument about what for real means versus nominal. But here we're using it from a worldly perspective, which is to say something is something nominally. It means we're implying that it is not in fact the case. And when we say something is for real, it's like, yes, it is what we're saying it is. Sooner or later, we're going to say, wait a minute, right? There's no such thing as for real. Everything is nominal, but that's not how we're using it now. The example Geshe-la gave for this idea of nominal is using that word we've learned before, natural nirvana, Rangshin Yempa, Yangde, Rangshin Yangde, natural nirvana. And natural nirvana is a code word for the emptiness of something, code word for emptiness. And it's not actually a state of nirvana, because we know reaching nirvana requires the how does that definition go? The freedom from mental afflictions and seeds for more because of your individual analysis, which means because of having perceived emptiness directly and the four truths. And so we've burned off the seeds for believing in our self-existent experiences. So in order to reach actual nirvana, we would need to be a conscious being who has mental afflictions, who has then stopped them, stop recreating them. And so to say everything has natural nirvana can't be literal. It has to be a word that they're using to mean something else. That's what we're saying nominal. So pens, tables, glasses, computers, horses, people, everything has natural nirvana, meaning everything has its own emptiness. But it doesn't mean they are already free of mental afflictions, because pens and tables and chairs never had mental afflictions to begin with. So they aren't something that can get free of their mental afflictions. And yet they use the term natural nirvana because they do automatically have their emptiness. And that emptiness is their ultimate reality. So it's just an example for what it means to be nominal, in word only, in name only. So the scripture says, nominally, we can divide qi into three types. Those three types are 710. How'd I get to 710? Rikchi, Dunchi, Sokchi. Let's take our break. I'm so sorry. I went 10 minutes through.
Emma, when are you going to Armenia? Is it Armenia?
August 9 to 27.
Okay. This year we don't have another retreat planned, no?
No, we don't.
That's bad.
Roxana Singh has an idea for one, but I haven't heard much lately. She's got grandbaby duty lately, so I haven't heard. But she was wanting to do a Mahamudra practice 10 days, I think is what she had in mind.
Did she say when? No, she hasn't mentioned the dates.
No, we haven't picked dates. We haven't found a place. She's looking in Mexico, of course. Okay, so these three nominal kinds of chi, things that are general. The first one we'll talk about is Rik chi. So now when we're using the word chi, Geshe-la calls it quality. Quality. Whereas before we called it a general category. Now it's more like quality, not a quality. Like a quality of Surani's hair is that it's gray, not like that, but quality. And then the Rik means type or the kind of, type or kind, Rikchi. So it's called a type quality, right? And your answer, Rikchi, is a type quality, meaning a type which has individual things which are characteristic of it. So Rikchi also has cheraks. The example from before, motor vehicle, we could call that the Rikchi, the type quality that we're going to be finding its cheraks, the cheraks of the type quality being motor vehicle. What are things, individual things, which are characteristic of that type quality? Not the characteristics of it, but things that are characteristic. So if motor vehicle is the type quality we're talking about, individual things that are characteristic of it are Fords, Chevrolets, Toyota, just like we talked about before. They are the specific instances of this thing, motor vehicle. So if you think about it, when we say motor vehicle, that's an idea, isn't it? And you can't really give a specific instance of motor vehicle. We need some specific things characteristic of it to be able to say motor within the type quality motor vehicle is my blue Subaru. My blue Subaru is a specific member of the type quality motor vehicle. My bicycle is not. My bed is not. My bed is not characteristic of the type quality motor vehicle. Right? Got it? So they give us a definition of rikchi, that existing thing which subsumes the multiple things which are of its type. That existing thing which subsumes the multiple things which are of its type. Geshe-la says, think carness or motor vehicle-ness, and then things that are characteristic of it, the car, my car, that car, Chevrolet, the specific instances that reveal, no, that's not the right word, motor vehicle-ness, that reflect motor vehicle-ness. They give a classical example of rikchi, a type quality, and their classical example is all knowable things, which is where we started second club. Let's learn about all knowable things. So Geshe-la said, look, think carefully about this. If we want to stop perpetuating samsara, we need to understand this material. He says it's life or death. Think of car as quote car. Like he's using quote car to make this distinction of the quality of carness. And then check out the difference between quote car and a car. And the difference between quote car, a car, and the car. And the difference between the car and that car. Right? They all have different ramifications, correct? Car, my car. It's a different experience that we have with each of those different words. So carness is not the same as a car. Carness, you can't describe, you can't picture, right? But a car, something pops in your mind that is then recognized, not then, that is this thing, a car. And maybe that one's kind of a non-specific jumble of all different kinds of cars, it's not a specific one, but it's definitely this thing with wheels and a steering wheel and door and windows, because that's what pops up in our mind when we give it the specification a car versus carness. But without carness, somehow in our mind, can a car pop up? Even if somebody held a photograph of a car in front of you, if you didn't have carness, you'd look at that thing and go, I don't know what that is. Or maybe you'd look at it and go, whoa, looks like a tree to me. Okay, if we don't have the rikchi, we can't have the chedak. Once we have a chedak, we know we have to have the rikshi, but you can't actually see it. Now, Geshe makes it a little bit easier for people when he's teaching in DCI. He says the first, whatever the car was that he says our mom used to teach us the word car, that when we think car, that image comes up. He calls it the mom car. But that probably that car doesn't exist anymore if it's a specific one. And there was something about that mom car that pops up that through that we can then recognize something as a car when we see it, even if it looks totally different than the mom car. So suppose, the car your mom showed you was a little VW Bug, right? It's like this little round thing. And now suppose we're, I don't know, 50 years in the future and all the cars are, elongated and they look so completely different than the little round bug. And yet our mind can still recognize this thing as a car, even though the first one that pops up in our mind looks so completely different. Because underneath the one that looks like the little bug is this concept car that we had to have already had in our mind when mom tried to teach us car in order for us to learn car. So that Rikchi doesn't, like it is through that we recognize the Chedaks of that Rikchi. But the Rikchi itself has no specificity. It's the idea of ness, car-ness, consciousness. We talked about it in Bokjimpa the other night. It's the essence of something, the quality, what makes it unique. No, we can't even say that. What makes its things characteristic of it unique is they are characteristic of car-ness. So you could say they bring reality to car-ness. Car-ness depends on its chedaks. Its chedaks depend on its car-ness. So car-ness is this attribute. Lisa, I'm going to wait on your question, or we're going to, okay. The quote car or car-ness is not the same as a car. It is an attribute, a nature, a quality. And then there are different objects in the world which are characteristic of that quality. And the English is precise on purpose. They don't have that quality. They are characteristic of the quality. Ford, Chevys, Toyotas, these possess that nature, car-ness. Right? So quality, rikchi, and things characteristic of it, the chedaks of the rikchi. The way our reality is occurring is closely tied to this question of car-ness, not meaning just about cars, meaning about any existing thing or being or emotion or feeling, right? Mental thing, physical thing. The reason we perceive our reality the way we do, what we're doing wrong, and why we are suffering is directly related to this relationship between carness and my car, a car, your car, the car, that car. He says it's subtle, and understanding it brings us to understanding dependent origination, which brings us to the direct perception of dependent origination, which triggers the direct perception of emptiness. Then we can see in the direct perception of emptiness coming out, we know we've seen our future enlightenment directly. We know how many lifetimes it will take. We know the nature of those lifetimes, what we'll do and how we'll live. We've seen other Buddha directly. We've become Arya, superior to how we've ever been before. We lose all doubt in these truths. You don't need anybody to teach you anything differently. Nobody can teach you anything differently. Not that you don't still have teachers on the path, but you don't go looking anywhere else for any new information. You know the real existence of things. You know the contents of all the scriptures. You know they're all true. You know the four Arya truths. And it all comes from understanding this carness thing. So Rikchi. Car. Chedak. Things characteristic of, quote, car. It helps to ask for the blessings of our lamas, as he said. Okay, so second nominal version of chi is this one, Dunchi, which has a subcategory called Drachi. Chi means quality. Dun means mental image. So mental image quality. Geshe said the technical definition of this is the long story. The basis of it is that there are three aspects to it to understand it. The first is a dunchi is a mental image of something we have perceived before. So he says, right now, from where you are, think of your refrigerator. And I'm assuming it's not right there in front of you, but our minds will think, right, and get some version of an image or an idea of the refrigerator that's in your place. That image in our mind is the dunchi. It's clearly not the refrigerator because we're not standing there looking at it. It's in our mind. Now, so this first quality is it's a mental image of something we've seen before. If I had said, think of the pillow that I use in the driver's seat of my car. Like assuming you've never seen that pillow. You know what a pillow is, but you've never seen the pillow I use in the back of my car. So you can't make a mental image of it. You can get an image of a pillow, but you know that's not right because you've never seen my pillow. Do you see? So it's not this dunchi is a mental image of something we have perceived before. And now we think of it and bing, up comes a mental image of that thing. However, there's a version of mental image that's called drachi. Drachi means the mental image that pops up of something that we've heard about, but never actually experienced ourselves. So Geshe-la's example is, suppose you've never been to Paris. So you've never seen the Eiffel Tower yourself. But we've heard about the Eiffel Tower. Maybe we've seen a postcard or a picture, but we've never seen it. we have an idea of the thing called Eiffel Tower. And then somebody says Eiffel Tower, and up pops this idea in our mind, this image, but it's not an image of something we've experienced directly before. And that mental image is called a drachi. So it's still a mental image. The difference is whether it's a mental image that of something we've experienced or just heard about, which is an experience of it, but not, we would agree, it's not the Eiffel Tower to just have had somebody say, wow, is this cool structure that looked like that. So Geshe didn't have too much to say about drachi, but it seems to me that if you've not seen emptiness directly before, but we've heard about it, it means we all have drachi of the direct perception of emptiness, and we want it to become a dunchi. If we had drachi Eiffel Tower and we really, really wanted to get a dunchi of Eiffel Tower, we would go to Paris and experience the Eiffel Tower. And now we can no longer have drachi of it because every time we think of it, we'll have a dunchi. So I don't know, I asked Geshe Michael once, it's like, is my logic correct? And I said, and then further, I think I would want to be rejoicing in ways that I've helped somebody learn something new that they wanted to know, somebody who didn't have a dunchi of something, I would want to help them turn their drachi into a dunchi. So maybe I would want to help them have a drachi first, and then help them turn their drachi into a dunchi. And I said, and maybe I've actually have the seeds of already having done that. For instance, and I came up with these different examples, and he, graciously listened to me. And then he smiled and he reached in his backpack and he handed me a crystal, a cut crystal diamond. It was actually a heart, but a crystal heart diamond. He just smiled at me and he handed me this. And it's like, I think I hit something important. And I've been cooking it ever since. So, dunchi, the first thing to know about it, it's a mental image of something we've perceived before. Second factor about dunchi is that we mistake it, the mental image, for the actual object. Now, apparently, when the Sautrantikas explain this and what they mean by mistaking it for the actual object, they describe something differently than when the Madhyamikas describe what's meant by the dunchi is mistaken for the actual object. Geshe said, there's not much use in learning the Sautrantika one because it won't help us too much. But it's very useful to understand the Madhyamika's explanation, because that's the one that will bring us to the direct perception of emptiness. And he says it might go like this. So this is where I'm giving you verbatim what he said this first time that he taught it to his group in New York. So listen carefully. This is about mistaking the dunchi for the actual object. After studying Jijedak like crazy, you are making tea in a pot for your lama, for example, and suddenly you realize that you are not looking at a pot. You are looking at a mental picture of a pot, that all that is there is a circle of silver, a black long thing, other clues, colors, shapes, that then your mind under the influence of, ruled and dictated by your past karma, organizes that data into a certain object. Then your mind fills in the blanks and creates a dunchi of a pot. You are actually staring mentally at an image of a pot in your mind. And then you mistake that for a pot when all you are actually getting is some sense data. A roach on the stove getting that same sense data input because of its karma interprets that data as life-threatening hell realm with a burning floor, and validly so. It's no more a pot than a hell realm floor. The roach would also be mistaking its mental image of a mountain of burning hot something as an external object. The roach also is looking at a dunchi, not a real object, and that's what makes him a roach. He is a roach because of the collective impressions that his karma is forcing him to have about the same sense data you are getting. Your karma is forcing you to organize things into dunchis that are much more comfortable normally. This is what makes you a human. Your karma is the human realm. There is no self-existent human realm independent of the dunchis that force you to interpret that same sense data as a human realm. And this is what makes tantric enlightenment possible. We change our karma so we will see the data around us as nectar of the gods. Dunchis are running our world. They make everything possible. Every single mental or physical event in your world is a dunchi, and we are mistaking them for some outer object. When you do this, you can like and dislike, and then you get into trouble. Only when you think of the object as being out there and as not depending on our own dunchis that we have created can we dislike or like someone in the wrong way, and so collect negative karma by having these negative emotions. If we really saw that everything we experience is our own creation, our own fault, like every jerk we ever met is just something that we are maintaining, then we wouldn't get mad at anyone. We would just go home and be sad that we haven't kept our vows and so have lousy karma. If we changed our karma, we would be free from our bad karma and reach nirvana because we understood the emptiness of our world. To understand emptiness, we must investigate the intimate relationship between rikchi and dunchi, between karness and our mental image in our mind when we think of a car. It will liberate us when we see the connection. So the third quality of dunchi is we arrive at it, the dunchi, by negating all that it is not. And this is a Sautrantika explanation of how our mind is making these dunchis. And although it isn't it isn't too terribly helpful in coming to understand our mental images and stopping the mistake. It is useful to explore like the mechanism that they are trying to describe. So they are saying that this mental image, it doesn't arrive by laying itself onto something. We arrive at it by removing everything that's not it. So I have a drawing that I used for myself to try to figure out the difference between thinking I'm just perceiving something and perceiving something by way of all that it's not. Right? So if we think of, oh, I look at this thing, it's supposed to be a little heart. And it looks like I'm looking directly at a thing that's there. And this is saying, well, really, there's other stuff all around. And your mind is making this designation heart as different from all the other stuff that I'm picking up. So I tried to draw it myself as like if these squiggles represent all the other stuff that's out there, then if you remove everything that's not heart, you end up with heart, right? Similar, but you've arrived at it in this other way. Ignoring this part, or not seeing this part, and then boom, out pops the heart, as opposed to the heart getting laid on. And it sure sounds, when Geshe-la is describing this Chuchuk experience now, it's like the seed cracks open and the image goes flying out, and down the chocolate sauce goes over the vanilla, and you end up with a chocolate sundae. It sure sounds like the heart's flying out of your mind and coming down. And yet there still is some aspect of this happening, of removing all that it isn't. So then in another way I try to wrap my mind around this to work with it is like, what if you could catch ourselves before the cheduk, right? Before the mental image brings forth the cheduk, and that really all you have is all this non-specific stuff. And then because of our seed ripening, we're able, what our mind does is out of all this non-specific stuff, I'm kind of looking at it, it goes, oh, look. Oh, where'd it go? It goes up here somewhere. Oh, look. Heart, right? It doesn't come out very well. Can you see it? Out of the non-specific, our mind makes a line around some of it, and oh my gosh, look, there's a heart. And so it's not completely this, and it's not completely that, but some factor of our mind makes this out of the non-specific, and then that out of the non-specific, and then that. And somewhere between these three depictions, we'll find our own explanation for what we're trying to show ourselves in these working with these ideas of the mental images that we are mistaking for actual objects outside. Is the pot on the stove boiling water? And can it be used to make tea? Yes. Is it all happening by way of dunchi? Yes. Do you see why it's so slippery? Dunchi are just mental images. You can't make tea out of mental images. But can you make tea without mental images? No. The pot on the stove is mental images. And mental images make tea that are mental images. And they make lamas that are mental images. Do you see our mind goes, oh, so none of it's real? When in fact, no, that's how it's real. That's how it's always been real. Things have never been real in the way that we thought. A pot that I fill with water that I put on the stove and I turn it on. The way I thought it happened is impossible. It's always been these mental images happening. And it's just so like, it rocks our reality when we're starting to see how we misunderstand, because it seems like the actual understanding can't possibly work. But it does. Can't work otherwise. So the classical example of dunchi, this one you just have to memorize for your homework. The appearance to the second instant of a conceptual state of mind, which is perceiving a water pitcher, of the opposite of all that is not the water pitcher of the second instant. So the second instant means the data has been made into an identity. And that happened by way of the opposite of all that's not a water pitcher. So Geshe-la says it means to say the opposite of all that a pen is not, as I imagine it while I perceive the thing which I mistake for a real pen. So he also pointed out that in your reading, there'll be a place in the reading where it says, dunchis are false because everything is dakme. Dakme means everything is emptiness, has its own emptiness. And he says it's the final argument for just about everything is to say, dakme, just everything has its own emptiness. And it's actually meant to verify that they exist, that things are exist. To say something is empty is actually to say that the thing that is empty is there. Because you have to have an appearance of something to lack its self-nature. And any appearing thing does lack its own self-nature in order for it to appear in the way that it does appear. So to finally say, oh, I give up, it's dakme, is proof that the thing exists. Another one of those slippery things. It sounds like it's proof that it doesn't exist because it's just empty. But it had to be there to be empty. So again, Geshe-la said, exploring these concepts about rikchi, the type quality, and dunchi, the mental image quality, will bring us close to seeing emptiness directly. Actually seeing it more clearly intellectually and then directly. Ask yourself, what is it in our minds that allows us to look at parts of an object and organize those parts, then understand that those parts make up a larger object. Carness, a car, the car. What's the difference? Traditionally, they would use the meditation 4 hooves, big bump, mahe, meaning Indian ox. How does that work? And we know the punchline. The punchline is karmic seeds planted by past behaviors ripen into forcing us to see things the way we do. Taking information, they say drawing lines around them, but it isn't that. Taking information and laying on the dunchi. And that's what makes tantric enlightenment possible. Just make the karma merit, and it will happen. Ooh, I got 6 minutes. Third kind of chi is sok chi. Sok means gathering or group or collection. Chi is quality. So here they mean a physical collection of parts. A general as far as a collection of parts, meaning there are physical members that make up a whole, like a mala made up of 108 beads and a guru bead, like an army. We heard it with Master Shantideva, whole bunch of people in uniform behaving in a certain way. All these individuals make up army. The classic example is water pitcher. Water pitcher is a collection of its belly, its handle, its spout. And Abhidharma school says all things that are composed of molecules and all the molecules that are composed of they call it 8 elements. They mean the 4 physical elements and the 4 sense powers through which they are experienced. The Sokchi is referring to all those things that are composed of those other things. So any particular car is made up of all of its parts. So my blue Subaru is a collection of all the parts of it. So that's way different than saying the idea car, quote car, of which my blue Subaru is a thing characteristic of carness. Sokshi is just saying this car is made up of all its parts and not really particularly helpful. So they call this a nominal chi, a nominal quality. But we said all 3 of them were nominal qualities. So Geshe-la said, work on how you conceptualize carness when you think or see a car. And doing so will get us to the direct perception of emptiness. He says, maybe it'll take years, maybe it won't. Not likely to happen if we don't work with car. A car, the car, that car, my car, his car, blue car, rotten car, good car. I want a better car, right? Our mind will take us into long, beautiful stories about chichara. Still have 2 minutes. But you know what? Let's stop here. So you can't finish your class 3 homework yet. I only just got partway through. We need to now talk about the chedaks of these different kinds of cheese. And we're going to do that next class. All right. So remember that person you wanted to be able to help. What you heard tonight is critical to becoming one who will help that other become one who will help the others of their world stop all that suffering. And that's an extraordinary goodness that you both ripened and planted. So please be pleased with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hand. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it, and carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the true ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with loving kindness, filled with wisdom. And may it be so. Okay. So please still have the object in the little bag with you for next class. We'll do it then. And Lisa, you still have that question from before?
Yes, Lama. Just if it is for the Rick sheet, is first the Rick or the chi? Can you hear me? Hello, hello.
Right? Yeah, I can hear, but I'm not following. The chi is the
Meaning,
quality, Rick means type.
I understand, but what is first in the sense of, do I create a Rick out of a chi? For example, I have parts together, like there is a new invention of something that didn't exist before. And then I say, this is now called car. And in the moment that I say that, then the Rick is created, but it's created out of the first she. Do you understand
Yeah,
what I
no,
mean?
yeah, but we're using Rick chi as the
Oh, yeah, sorry, the
term,
children,
the
I
thing.
meant.
We're not separating chi from Rick. Rick chi is the
Yeah,
category,
you're right. Sorry, yeah.
but the
Richie
chera,
is
the dun chi
exact,
versus Rick
the
chi.
children. Yeah.
Right, right. So the
It's like if it was first the chicken or the egg.
right, right, right. And in same question, right? You can't say what comes first. You have to start somewhere in your investigation, obviously. But if we are going looking for what comes first, the seed that was planted for the right, the thing that's ripening
Really
as the
sure.
dunchi, right, you'll find that no, something had to have been planted before that in order to have that one, in order to have this one. And that investigation is very similar to the one where we say, when you go looking for the thing that gets the label, you'll never find it. That we're looking to find a final, oh, there's emptiness. But what we find is, oh my gosh, I'll never find what I'm looking for. And the conclusion is, what I find is there's this constant process happening. And that is revealed by our investigation, looking for the thing that starts everything and showing ourselves that there's no such thing. And finally we like, okay, I get it now. And then we don't need it anymore. Right? But we've got these literal minds. And it's like, no, there has to be a first one. There has to be a first time it happened. And so, yeah, if you're onto that, go looking. Keep looking till you find it. Or you get so frustrated looking at it, you just finally go, or looking for it. I give up.
But it's if I want to plant something, it's hard to put this. Like, how do you create the Rikshi so that it becomes?
Show yourself helping others make dunchis out of drachis. That's like the bottom line, is if we want the dunchi direct perception of emptiness, which is something we've only heard about, and we want to make it real for ourselves, then we need to plant the seed for something becoming real that we've only heard about by helping somebody else make something become real that they've only heard about. And it doesn't have to be about emptiness or wisdom. Somebody who wants to go to that particular cafe? Hey, I'll take you to that cafe so that I can see emptiness directly someday soon. They don't have to know that part. You know that part. Because you've helped them change something they'd only heard about before into an actual experience. And then who have you done that for already? Lots of people in lots of ways. Yay. Do your rejoicing.
Okay, thank you, Lama.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I'm stopping recording. Any other questions? You're okay?